I wanted to spend some time to talk about philanthropy and impact because it's also new in Singapore and in Vietnam, that newer. How did you start in that space? You've been a banker, you were educated in law. And so, how did you make that transition?
I was in the refugee camp. When you were standing on the beach and looking out, there is a boat and it had the Red Cross, or in Malaysia, the Red Crescent, right, on the boat. They did amazing branding because that is ingrained, I think, in a lot of our heads. And when I came to the US, it was the nonprofits, the Salvation Armies, the Goodwills, the community action agencies, the teachers and the principals who really helped us transition our life here in the US. And so there's always been this piece in the back of my mind that we can't do this alone. We need help. And then when I went to law school, I was a public defender, worked there for about 6 months. My grandmother ended up with cancer. And this is a little bit pre-internet age, and where you have to go somewhere to get information. And so I went to the American Cancer Society at that time to try and get some information. I just came from court, so I was in my suit, and they thought I was there for an interview. They were looking for a plan giving director. And again, that plan giving business is relatively new in the US at the time. But the concept is there are a lot of trusts and wills, and a lot of people want to name a nonprofit to receive a portion of that legacy when they pass. Having that legal background training really helped with the conversations with a lot of our donors. And so I took the position and literally had to build my desk. And even my boss at that time, the person I reported to, said, I don't really know what this job is and I can't help you. I was just told to fill this position. So you have to figure this out yourself. That actually took me down this road of understanding charitable trusts, family foundations, right? And just how do people give? Some people, if they have cash or assets, they can give in their lifetime. But for some, they need it right now and they want to pass it on to the children. But so they could name maybe a nonprofit, a charity upon their passing, accepting that maybe the charity is also kind of recognized as one of their kids, right? And so that took me through this journey. This was also during the dot-com days. I moved to the Bay Area, worked for an organization, and then a lot of the dot-comers, folks that were executives taking the companies public, 49% of them were immigrants. They're from India, Taiwan, Vietnam, Indonesia. They were coming from not just Asia, but Africa and other places as well. And they live in the US. So when they're thinking about taking their company IPO or selling their company, they have to do planning. Right? So the attorneys got involved, the wealth advisors and financial advisors got involved, but then they also thought about, okay, we're going to have a huge tax issue here. So they started talking about philanthropy, and they brought me into those conversations. How do we help these entrepreneurs give here in the US, but also give back home where they were from? So that started my journey in learning about US and also Asia philanthropy as well.
Right. Wow, what an amazing journey. Thank you for sharing that. And you're obviously someone who is entrepreneurial. I mean, 6 months into a job and going there for something and seeing that opportunity show up as something that you wanted to contribute to and jump in and build your own desk and career from that, right? It's amazing. But it also reminded me about something. In 2001, I was going to list my .com business in Singapore for about $300 million. And I had started to think at that point, what would I do if I had all this wealth? Well, fast forward, I ended up not doing the listing, so I didn't get all that wealth. So I never continued to think about that until the journey took me into the space of consulting and working with family businesses. Dien, you talked about giving with conditions or without conditions, as well about taxation. Whether you could also share more about this whole world.
It is actually fascinating because if you work with entrepreneurs and even family businesses, right? If you start this family business and you've run this business for about 30 or 40 years of your life, and you're thinking about, okay, I've attained success. What does significance mean in my life? The other is also thinking about, you built this business. How do you transition it? How do you give somebody else control and make decisions? And can you step out of this role? So as we're thinking about even as an entrepreneur and thinking about the sale of or transition of a business, we also have to help, I would say, the entrepreneur think about what is life after selling your business or transitioning it to your family members or your children. What does the next week look like when you don't really have an office to go to? And so we start talking about purpose, and we start talking about, okay, then what is my significance? What is my legacy? And now that I have free time, could I accomplish something more and give back in a different way? So when advisors start planning for this, there's always that tax problem, at least in the US on the transition side. When you sell a business, there's always a tax issue. Yeah. And so a lot of advisors, what we call charitable tax planning. So we look at what tools can we use to try and decrease the tax. Either you give it to the government, or you could figure out how to give it in a different tool to the organizations that you get to choose and you get to support. And of course, entrepreneurs, we love control. We want to decide, right? And so a lot of people who are thinking about selling the business or have a meter gift and wanting to give it away will have that journey through the tax planning. But then there is another level, what we call philanthropic planning, is besides the tax and the tools, how else would you like to live your life? And that could be working with certain vendors. It could be how you decide where to shop or what investments to hold. So I think there's a much broader conversation. And entrepreneurs understand this, right? Because it's all about leverage. What else can I do? How can I leverage not just our financial capital, but we have our social capital, spiritual capital, right? We have so many other capitals that we can leverage, especially relationships in Asia. Then you take this concept one step further and you think about, as I do my planning, what is enough for my children? Is giving them $10 million enough? Is $30 million enough? But then what is too much, where they can't have their own life of flourishing and purpose? So a lot of families, our parents, have to think through this. And so this is when they start thinking about, well, maybe we could give them half, when they reach 20, and then another half when they reach 40. But then you have to ask yourself, is that truly a gift? If you put all these restrictions around it, is it a gift, right? Or is it more of a contract now you have with the family member? So I think when we do planning, we start out with philanthropy and giving, we have to get into values. And once we start talking about values, we end up with family conversations and dynamics, right? In addition to how do we also take care of our community that we love? Right. So it's a fascinating struggle, I would say. And it takes some time, I think, for entrepreneurs or even the family members to process all this.
Right. This conversation is critical in Vietnam because we're seeing a tsunami of successions for family businesses. And you actually articulated a very key point, which is, what does the founder do post handing over the business, the operations of the business, as well as even looking at legacy planning? If we can't find that other thing for them to get involved in, the succession plans are going to go astray because they don't have anything else to do.
Yes. How much golf can you do in a week, right? Yeah. And I would say there's a situation where we were working, got a call from the wife, and she said, "Please do something with my husband. It's been a week. He can't stay at home anymore." And she said, "Go help find him, find purpose. Give him some purpose in life." And we did. We had a session with him. We sat him down. We went through a little bit of values exercise. He had created 3 startups, all cybersecurity. And then when he realized what his purpose was, which is still cybersecurity, but to protect children, he created his 4th startup, but his 4th startup was all about protection, which is very, very different. Now, not only is he using his assets, and his just knowledge and building this, but now he has a purpose in life. And so I think it's fascinating. I think a lot of our clients and donors know what they want to do, but they need advisors like us in a way to kind of give them and expose them to other things, but also give them courage to do it.